All right, Jim, thanks for sitting down with me today. How's your summer going?
Very good. I'm not a big fan of the off season. I much prefer the regular season, but it is important to kind of reset, and especially with both roles, you don't get a ton of time off. Our main focus right now from the managerial side is the upcoming draft, so it's exciting to start to prepare for that.
So all business right now, or a little bit of fun as well?
Well, a little bit of both. I combined a scouting trip into Ontario, got to see some family for the last week, and I tend to do that at the end of the season. We've had a lot of success with free agents in Ontario. It's nice to get some eyes on them, but it's also nice to combine a trip to go back home to see some family.
And a recent trip back home, getting inducted into the Kingston Sports Hall of Fame. What was that feeling like?
Well, it was a very humbling experience. There's a lot of names in that Hall of Fame that mean a lot to me personally, and a lot of people that I grew up looking up to. And just to be able to go back and kind of celebrate with family and friends was a special moment that I'll never forget.
How have you been preparing for the upcoming draft? What's it like having a top 10 pick, and how important is that for the team going forward?
Well, I think firstly, having a top 10 pick is extremely important for this franchise. If you look back in our history in the last 10 years, we haven't had many. The last time we picked this high was Lucas Cormier, and I think we all know how that turned out. So really, really excited. I think part of building an elite team is adding elite talent. In order to do that, you have to have some high picks. And quite frankly, we haven't had many lately, so that's been difficult for our scouting staff. So it's a process to get there. We were in Boston a couple weeks ago to start to explore the U.S. market. We had a very, very important Q Cup in Blainville recently, which led into our scouting meetings. And now we'll get into the kind of the nitty-gritty micromanagement part of the draft in terms of player interviews, a lot of the homework. Character is equally as important as it is for talent at this draft. So a lot of the background information that we have to seek out the next month becomes vital in our decision-making process.
And do you see this as a strong draft this year?
Well, our scouts are really excited, and when they're excited, I'm excited. And I think you could see that in Blainville. We changed the format a little bit this year as a league, 4 teams from 6. You could see the high-end talent. There's more size in this year's draft than there has been in a number of them, so that's exciting.
Is there any position that you think the Islanders will be focusing on in this year's draft?
Not necessarily. I think at pick number 7, you're going to go best player available. That's always kind of been our philosophy. And over the course of the draft, you try to address both forward and defense, and of course your goaltending depth. And I think as the draft goes on, you're looking more at futures and more at depth, so you want to make sure that you cover all areas.
And we've seen one of the top prospects, Scantlebury, moving to the USHL. What does a move like that surprise you, and what does that mean for the QMJHL?
A little bit surprising, just in the fact that with the new rules now with the NCAA eligibility not a factor, we didn't expect to see as much. That being said, that's the only one that we've heard of so far. In the past, we're used to hearing 4 and 5 of these situations. So we also know that there's smoke screens that go up and hit sometimes. What today is reality isn't tomorrow's reality. So we'll see where the draft goes. I'm sure Scantlebury is going to get drafted at some point. It's just a matter of when and where.
So you just recently signed a contract renewal with the Islanders. How long have you signed for, and what's your feeling around that?
Well, it's a multi-year deal, and it gives us an opportunity to continue to move forward. And it's been, personally and professionally, a terrific decade. It's hard to believe it's been 10 years already. But there's a lot of unfinished business here. None of us are happy with how the seasons have ended, the last 3 seasons in particular. And we think that there's a lot of foundational pieces in place here to move forward. So I'm excited from a professional standpoint to get the opportunity to continue with the Islanders.
And a really terrific second half of the season last year, despite a disappointing playoff loss to a really good team in Rimouski. How does that excite you for next season, and do you think the building blocks are there for the Islanders to really make a run for the Memorial Cup in the next few years?
Well, we're extremely excited. We think we've kind of lived through, and I know fans are sick of hearing rebuild, so we're no longer in rebuild. I think that's the biggest thing to reiterate. The rebuild word is gone now. It's about moving forward and progressing, and we had a terrific second half. We had an extremely disappointing showing in the playoffs, but that's behind us now. It's all about looking forward. And for the first time in 3 seasons, when I look at our depth chart, we're confident in goaltending with Donald Hickey. We think he's a bona fide #1 goalie that had a chance to be a superstar in this league. If I just look at our back end with 2 blue chip defensemen in first and second round picks in Conrad and Kersey, that's a great starting point, plus depth with other names that I'm not going to necessarily mention. And up front, I think we have foundational pieces of a great top line. If you just look at Butler and Campbell alone, and you see their progression from year to year and where they're going to be. And again, a lot of other names that I haven't mentioned that adds to our depth. And I think when we look at the league this year with both Rimouski and Moncton, who are above and beyond the crowd, in my humble opinion, it's their depth. Yes, they have talent, but they have talent in a lot of different places. And I think if I look at our depth chart right now, we have a lot of those pieces in place. That being said, there's a lot of work to be done. Excited to add the 7th overall pick into our lineup next year, an expansion with the import draft now allowing 3, but we have to fill those holes properly. So excited, but with guarded optimism in terms of a lot of work to do.
And with Owen Conrad and Jabez Seymour expected to go in the NHL draft this year, what do you think that's going to add for their development moving forward?
Well, anytime that a young player gets an opportunity to go to a National Hockey League camp, it's an eye-opening experience. I think, number one, you realize how talented the guys are, but I think most importantly, you understand that the commitment level that goes into being a pro is above and beyond what it is a junior. And I think normally when we have those players return, they bring the habits that they've acquired and learned from the pros back into a junior setting. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to strive to have a professional environment here. So the more kids that can get exposed to that, the better it is for the rest of the group.
So this will be your 11th season coming up with the Islanders. Looking back, how would you say your time has been in Charlottetown?
Well, it's been fantastic. It's hard to believe it's 10 years. I think time flies when you're having fun, is the old expression, and that's the case here. We have a terrific group of people from our ownership group on down that's been incredibly supportive for me, both personally and professionally. On a personal level, it's been a terrific place for my kids to grow up. Their formative years have been spent here. My oldest is still at university here. My wife and I have become fully ingrained in the community here, so that's been wonderful. And from a hockey perspective, we've had some great runs. And I think we're looking forward to our next great run. When I think of 4 trips in 6 years to the semifinals and beyond, a memorable trip to the final, although disappointing to come up short. I still remember a lot of big moments and big goals in this building, and we're looking forward to bringing that excitement back to the Islanders.
Drew steps in, that one right, net's open, they score! Good golly, Miss Foley! The Islanders win it! The third in overtime!
Yeah, and you've coached some terrific players in that time, including Daniel Sprong, and even coaching with the World Junior team, you coached some really terrific players on that team. Explain to me some of the top players skill-wise that you coached, and maybe a top player that you loved coaching just as a character.
Yeah, it's always difficult to, over the course of 10 years, to pull out, best players. I think from a skill perspective, I think Daniel Sprong is probably the most skilled player that's come through the doors in my 10 years here. And not surprisingly, he's gone on to a very solid National Hockey League career, but from a pure skill perspective, his shot, his skating, his passing, his vision was probably second to none. In terms of the characters, there's been numerous characters through these doors, and some of the big pieces for me that I think kind of transitioned this franchise from hoping to win to expecting to win to demanding to win is people like Keith Getson. Getson's been here a lot. Matt Welsh. Welsh is kind of that rock of a goaltender, spent 5 years here. P.O. Joseph is another name that comes to mind from a leadership perspective. Pascal Akin played a real big key. And on and on and on. I could go on for hours in this interview about some of the players that have been here, and I respect and admire so many people that have worn this jersey over the years. And we're proud of our alumni, and we hope that we have a whole host of kids in here that are excited to keep the Islander tradition alive.
And can you tell me a little bit about your partner, Guy Girard, as your assistant coach and assistant GM, and what he's meant to you as a partner? Well,
Guy and I, friendship dates back to the late 80s in York University. We were teammates together, became very good friends. I think he's been a fabulous addition. I wouldn't be anywhere without the people around me. Our hockey staff in particular is very tight. Guy does a lot of the unsung work. He's also been instrumental in developing a ton of defensemen that have moved on to the next level, and I think the proof is in the pudding there. He does a great job with that. He also does a lot of the behind-the-scenes administrative work, and I'd hate to think where we'd be without him.
And we've got some other great people behind the scenes here, including Andrew Spider McNeil. Tell me a little bit about him, and he's been here for a really long time, so you've spent a lot of time with him here.
Well, Spiders became a great friend. I certainly admire people that have longevity in an organization, and his loyalty to this crest is second to none. He's a terrific worker. He doesn't go about anything looking for spotlights or accolades, but he's easily the most popular figure in this organization. And if you ask players, both current and past, the first person they're probably going to mention is Spider. We're extremely lucky to have him, and as I said, we're lucky that we have a really close-knit hockey staff here with Devin Aiken as our therapist, Kevin Henderson, Guy Girard, Spider, myself. The 5 of us spend a lot of time together, but fortunately we like each other and we have a lot of fun doing it.
Can you tell me your favorite part about the dual role of coaching and being a general manager?
Well, that's a good question, and the favorite part I think is just being able to, I'll steal an expression from Bill Parcells, the former NFL coach who talked about if you're going to cook the meal, you should be allowed to buy the ingredients as well. So I think just being involved in all aspects of building the roster. One of the things I love about junior is the complexity of trying to put this puzzle together. And so the managerial, I always talk about the big picture for the manager is 3 to 5 years, where the big picture for the coach is 3 to 5 days in some cases. So juggling both, I think, is important. I've learned over the course of time how important it is to delegate and have good people around you, and I'm certainly really lucky and fortunate to have great people on me with, we mentioned earlier in the interview, Guy does a lot of the administrative work. We have a great scouting staff led by Trevor Burt and Kevin Hill, and it's a collective, and I think it's a team away from the team, and I think that's the part I enjoy the most, is working with a group.
Great. And on a different note, the QMJHL's seen a lot of changes recently with the Teton moving to Newfoundland, with some NCAA rule changes. Do you see the Q progressing, and where do you see the CHL going as a whole moving forward?
Well, it's a really exciting time at all levels of hockey, with the barriers kind of falling with the NCAA ruling, and which I think is far overdue. I never completely understood why that rule was there. I thought it was really prohibitive for our players. So I'm thrilled first and foremost for the young men that come through the doors to be able to expand their opportunities with hockey. And for our league, not only the Quebec League, but also the Canadian Hockey League, there's exciting opportunities here. We're seeing expansion starting already in the Western Hockey League next year, rumors in Ontario. I know our league's looking to hopefully expand our footprint down in the United States. We're entering new territory, at least for us, into Newfoundland. So really exciting times, and I think that's a great part about sports. It's always evolving. I think one of the challenges as you get older as a coach is to make sure that you change and evolve with the times. And so again, I think it's an exciting opportunity for all levels of hockey right now. Well, I'd like to say Islanders hockey is back in full force, and I think the demands and expectations will be heightened through the roof next year for this group, both internally and externally. I think we've lived through enough of the lower end finishes, the no success in the playoffs, and I think we're all left with a bitter taste after this season, but that's fueling us. And we're extremely optimistic with the foundational pieces that are in place, and we promise you that we'll put the work in to make sure that this is a top-notch team moving forward.
Great. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.